are very powerful. First thing you see sets your mind ablaze or sets your heart afire. When you came here and you saw that kindly drill sergeant, when you saw those beautifully sculptured boots, and that immaculately cut uniform made just for you, sir, and the loving way they gave you the brown paper to wrap up your civilian clothes, and to say, there's the string, do it yourself. You thought, this is good, I'll fit in here. And then you met your colleagues, those kind, sharing, senior entry people. Always reserved a place for you in the cinema, in the front row. Shared with you their last ounce of tobacco, which they borrowed from the special tunnel under the cinema. All those kindly sharing people. Impressions are important. They stay with you. One day, I was kneeling down about there, saying my prayers, because Church of England clergymen are paid to do that. You do it, you sit in church, morning and evening, you say morning and evening prayer. And I looked left and I thought, do you know, that's the biggest toilet window I've ever seen in a building in my life. That frosted glass is so charming, so rich in texture, and speaks so much of a dull and boring attitude to architecture. And I thought to myself, I wonder how I can change it. But I thought, there are so many great people, and good people, and nice people, and rememberable people have come through this church. You can't rewrite a story about them. But of course I've noticed, as soon as you say one thing about one entry, or tell them anything, they very quickly tell you, got that wrong, it wasn't like that, it was like this. So I said, I've got to find a way of letting them tell their own story. And so slowly the idea came that we'll write their story in glass. And we'll let you write it yourself. We'll let you come together and make the story. So there you start. And we saw an impression of a building being hit by an aircraft and an enormous explosion, the likes of which I hope to God none of you have actually seen or shall see again. It not only happened once, it happened twice. Now that impression was moving enough, but the impression that will stay with me, to my horror, is the impression of the vast, black, filthy, dirty cloud of smoke, steam, of concrete, rolling like a river of darkness and despair through the great valleys of Manhattan. You didn't have to watch long to suddenly realize that amidst all of this darkness and despair, there were people running. And this cloud was so big, it was overwhelming them and destroying them and disorientating them. The great cloud of filth and dirt was all around them. Now, afterwards, we were treated to the media nightmare of the personal interview. Personally, I think it's an intrusion to people's hearts and minds and souls, and should be left to one side. But in the midst of it, one or two people were asked, how did you get out? And one or two said, I saw a light. I felt a hand. I heard a voice. And in the darkness and the despair and the torment, somebody touched me. Somebody held me. And at one point they said, someone led me by the hand, and he was a friend. I didn't really know him, but he was somebody I knew. She came and helped me. I heard a voice. Now all of you here in the association and those associated with it have experienced your own dark clouds of despair. So many of you have walked through war and tempest and torment, either on the battlefield, or with work, or with relationships, or with yourself. So many of you have known illness, a lot of you have known breakdown and separation, and yet you keep going. You know, there's something about the association that says, deep within the cloud that is my despair, I see another person's light. Something they did to you when you joined this Royal Air Force said, only the best will do. But what you turned it into is, only my best will do. You were able to turn the best out there into the best in here. You knew that your standards were the best there could be, and you were prepared to do that. That equipped you to shine in your own generation, and to shine to those other generations which come before and behind. You didn't know where and when you would be put to the test. None of you really knew the war was coming, the Second World War, the Korean War, and all those other times of horror and pain your nation has gone through. And in that time, you were suddenly called upon not to get ready for war, not to prepare for war, but to do it. And in that cloud of despair, those very same gifts that you were given in training, that long training of heart, body, mind, and skill, began to shine. So when the dark clouds really came, there you were. You were that friend, you were that colleague, you were that shining light. You may not have thought you were, but because your priority was to do your best, what is best is my best, and I shall do it, there you stood before your friends and colleagues as an example, but also as a light. For some of you, it'll be the light of salvation. Some of you, a light of hope. Some of you, a light of companionship. Some of you, a light of skill, leadership, management, brilliance, or ordinary friendship. Wonderful, magnificent blessing called friendship that has survived the years and everything that the world has thrown at it. So deep in whatever cloud that is, you stand, you sit, you kneel, you walk, you dance, you teach, you sing as a light. You represent a light in the darkness, which is but a small pinpoint of a greater light. Some of you find faith, some of you find other gifts and other qualities, but you still find each other. In the midst of the darkness, the skills you were given are maintained. You will know how you can reach out, and you will also know how you've been reached. Through that darkness, try to say thank you. If you simply turn around now and look at the back of that church, you will see the story in light and the sunlight shining through the windows of your story. When the next generation comes and says, who are those people and how did they shine? You say, we are those people. In that window, in that light, we shine to each generation, saying, do not despair. Ordinary folk can do wonderful things. Ordinary friendship can transform ordinary people into giants. You will be called, and are still called, in your own day, even today, to shine. You have been asked to mount up like eagles, to soar and to achieve, and you've done it. All I can say to you, association,